It's broken.
No, there it
Oh,
goes.
there it is.
It's like, I definitely hit the
It was
button.
glitching.
All right, let's do it. Surprise! We are back at you. Welcome back to a brand new episode of CTL Speaks. I am your host of today's episode. Today, we are joined by Taylor Elliott and Rubie Natal, who are playing Buddy and Jovie in Elf, the musical, hitting CTL's main stage from December 1st and 3rd, the 7th and the 10th, 7th through the 10th, and the 14th through the 17th. We will have them introduce themselves to you in just a second, and we'll cover everything Elf related. But for right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And we're back. All right, let's do it. It's like so funny watching the backstage, you guys doing things that I'm always dancing during the theme song. So then it's like, what's everyone gonna do? Are they just gonna sit and stare, or what's happening?
Oh,
All
I
right.
was muted.
Of course you were muted, silly. There was a video playing. All right, so we are here tonight to kick off episode one of a two-part episode series covering Elf the Musical, which, as I said before, hits the main stage very shortly on December 1st. We open. And so as we get into this Elf series, this week we're hearing from Taylor and Rubie. Next week we're going to be hearing from the Hobbs family. So we have Ryan Lannon, Caroline Cipriani, and Emmeline Martin. And usually we do a 3-episode series where we include the director, but that's me. So I'm already here, so I'm going to talk about some things related to the show as well. But for right now, we've got Taylor and Rubie here. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
How we doing? How we doing? All right, Taylor, why don't you get us started? Just introduce yourself to the audiences, the listeners. Let them know who you are, where you come from, what you do.
Alrighty. Well, hello everybody. My name is Taylor Elliott. I'm playing Buddy the Elf in Elf the Musical. I'm originally from State College, Pennsylvania, but I'm currently residing in Williamsport. And when I'm not busy being an elf, I am a welder by trade.
Very, very close to the same thing,
Absolutely.
Elves making toys.
Yeah, we both make things.
You both put things together. Hopefully, you're a
Yeah.
better welder than you are an elf. So
I pass.
I'd make you think. We'll see.
As long as I pass inspection, that's all that matters.
That's a great point. All right, Rubie.
Hi, I'm Rubie Natal. I play Jovie. What was the other questions that we were supposed to answer?
Who you are, where you come from, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm playing Jovie. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I reside in Northumberland, Pennsylvania, and what I do, I work for CTL.
We are so happy to have you both
Classic
here on the
background.
show. Yes, the CTL speaks background when we are all in the same location, which we are obviously not today. So let's talk about Elf. First and foremost, what led you to auditioning for Elf the Musical? When you heard that CTL was doing it, when it was announced at our season launch party, our CT Celebration launch party, what excited you about this show and why did you audition?
You first.
All right. I guess the main thing is I really wanted the chance to play Buddy. I feel like Buddy and I are very similar people. We're both very excitable. We're both just very curious about the world around us. And I don't know, it's so much fun. It seems so much fun. And being where we are now in the rehearsal process, it is so much fun. It's just the whole thing seemed fun.
We like a little bit of fun. Rubie?
Absolutely.
I agree with Tay. It's Elf. It sounded like a fun show, and honestly, for me, it was the music. The music, it slaps. Especially Emily and Michael's songs. Personally, those are my favorite songs. Emily and Michael's songs.
Yes.
They're great. It's just a great soundtrack in general.
The only other song I enjoy as much as theirs is the Santa song as the opening of Act 2.
Oh yeah.
You see, Nobody Cares About Santa. I personally love everything about that dance. The dance, the music, the song, the jazziness. it's such a good way to open Act 2. So that's one of my favorites.
I feel like a lot of the soundtrack is very jazzy.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense if you think about like Christmas time. Sometimes you think about Christmas and like jazz is just a kind of relaxing, and really just gets you into that holiday spirit. There's just something about the sound that really does transport you into this world of Christmas and happiness. And I mean, we open the show with a song about being happy all the time, no matter what's going on. And as we look at what's happening, we look at the holiday season as a time where we get a chance to be with our loved ones that sometimes we don't get to see very often, or just get to celebrate life. I think it's a very appropriate way to open the show, and everything about the show. I think it's well written. I think it's done very well, and you guys are killing it. And I get the insight of being able to be at those rehearsals as the director, to get to see your characters develop and change, which is interesting to see. Which leads me to my next question, which is for you all. How different is this show from the movie? So for those people who know the movie and what happens in the story, do you find that the movie or the musical representation is close to the movie, or in what ways is it different?
I guess I can start with this. Obviously, it differs a lot. Like, I get a lot of questions about just certain things Buddy does in the movie. Like, does he chug a whole thing of Coca-Cola, like a 2-liter thing of Coca-Cola, or is he doing a Russian dance in the mailroom? So obviously, a lot of those moments aren't in the show, just for technical reasons, just because it'd be difficult to pull off a lot of those in a stage like ours.
Right.
But I would say for the most part, it stays pretty true to the movie, in terms of story, and even a lot of those iconic moments that you see, especially from Will Ferrell.
Yeah. I would say, for at least from the Jovie perspective, everybody that I have talked to, they're like, "Oh, how do you do the shower scene on stage?" And I'm like, it's not in there.
Yeah.
So anyone that doesn't know the musical, it's not in there. Spoiler, sorry.
Yeah, we don't got nobody singing naked on the stage. Yeah.
Nope. Not be in the shower.
No, we can't. Yeah, we'd have to charge a lot more for those tickets.
Yeah, no peeping toms.
Elf after dark.
So Taylor, you mentioned some of the iconic moments. So 2 questions, and this is for both of you, and then so I'll answer them both at the same time. Feel free to pick whichever one you'd like to answer. So the first question I have is, what are some of your favorite lines that either you or another character say in the show? And the second question is, because we talk about this kind of iconic representation of Elf, I mean, everyone knows, and Taylor, you just mentioned it, that Will Ferrell is Elf. And so, Taylor, how often, if at all, do you look at the way that Will Ferrell interpreted the character, and how does that affect you? And then Rubie, the same thing for Zooey Deschanel's character in the movie. How do you compare? Do you look more at the stage version, or how does that process look like for you?
I guess, Rubie, do you want to start this time?
Yeah, I can start this one. I try not just any musical I do. I try not to go based off of, if it does have the movie version. I try to come up with like my own interpretation of it. I haven't seen the movie recently because I feel like it's gonna like give me, this is what I need to do because she did it type. So I'm trying to just like come up with my own things and stick to the script as much as possible. It being that Jovie is, I feel like, a little different in the musical versus the movie. Like, Buddy's more similar and has similar things to him, but Jovie's a little different. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I couldn't tell you the last time I watched the movie, but when I found out that they were doing Elf, I tried to stay away from it as much as possible, just because I don't want anyone else's performance to affect my own. Right. Obviously, with moments like Buddy freaking out about Santa going to Macy's, obviously that's going to be in the back of my head for a lot of it. But yeah, like Rubie said, I'm trying to I wanted to try to stick to my own interpretation of the script and try to stay true to myself rather than try to imitate what was done in the
Sure.
movie.
Sure. And so back to question number 2, or I guess it was question number 1 in that case. What are some of your favorite iconic moments? And I think, Taylor, you probably mentioned the most iconic moment in all of Elf is when Buddy figures out that Santa is coming to Macy's, which is easily one of the best moments ever in Forever. So what is that? What does that look like? What are some of your favorite moments? Lines, moments, scenes in the show.
Yeah. So I have a couple actually. This first one's a little more general, but just getting reactions, just playing off of reactions from like Jovie, from Rubie and Walter, just seeing their reactions to Buddy being who he is, because Buddy is he's very much a mix between a character you'd get out of like a Rankin Bass Christmas film like Rudolph, and just the epitome of a young child, and they're not used to that. They're from two different worlds. So a lot of my favorite moments are just me interacting with those two in particular and just getting their reactions out of it. And then another one for me is exposing the fake Santa.
Oh yeah,
that's a fun
That-
that's a fun scene.
Yeah, it's a nice it's not very typical of Buddy to have an outburst like that, I would think. So it's fun to play around with that a little bit.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with the exposing the fake Santa moment. Jovie doesn't really interact with anyone but Buddy in the script. So I would Rockefeller scene is like where you really see, I feel like, Jovie come to life, and you see that she's not just someone that is like, ugh, Christmas. You know, there's a reason behind everything. You know, there's more to her character than just that. So I would say the Rockefeller scene and the fake Santa scene.
So what are some of the challenges that you have faced, if any, throughout the rehearsal process? Maybe developing your character or just in general. What are some of the things that you have personally dealt with trying to overcome to get ready for our performance? Because we are 2 short weeks away from opening night. And we haven't really sat down to have these conversations, so we're having them live on camera right now. So what are some of the things that you are struggling with, maybe, or just challenged with throughout this process?
For me, I would say Jovie is just a normal person, and like that sounds stupid, I feel like, but I'm used to playing like character people. Like all the roles that I've played, or they're either like super big or just like in your face type characters, and Jovie's just a normal person. So just being myself, I feel like sometimes it's harder to be yourself than, at least for me. I know people say it's the other way around. It's harder to be funny, but for me, it's harder to just like bring myself to the character, if that makes sense. So just being myself and finding my own Jovie instead of like kind of what we talked about before, trying to be the Jovie that people see or have seen before. So I would say that, and having a lot of downtime has been driving me a little crazy, because I'm used to just like being like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can be that. Yeah. But I can't do that with this one. I have to just like twiddle my fingers. It's nice, but it can be just a little stir crazy sometimes.
Yeah. See, I got the opposite problem.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So for me, it's a lot about finding ways to balance the energy throughout the whole show, because Buddy is essentially in the whole show.
Yeah.
And Buddy is a very energetic person. And so a lot of energy needs to be put into that role. So for me, it's just trying to balance out um, kind of where can I make those high moments as high as possible, but also bringing it down some so that I'm not completely exhausting myself throughout the whole show. Um, yeah, I mean the character himself has been fairly simple to grasp just because I mean I feel like Buddy and I are very similar. We're both very excitable.
Yeah.
So the character itself has thankfully not been too difficult to get a hand on, but it's just getting that energy balance and making sure I don't go full steam ahead the whole
Well,
show.
yeah, and especially with this presents such an interesting challenge because not only is your character high energy at 95% of the time,
Mhm.
but the writers of the show also wrote your music at 4 times speed. So everything that
Yes.
your character does is fast, and the words that you have to say have to come out fast, and then you still have to maintain this character and maintain the
Mhm.
energy and make sure. I mean, you've got a fun challenge. Add on top of that, we've got
Hmm.
12 performances. You know,
Yeah.
you've got to carry that through so many times where the audience and I was just I teach a theater arts class, and so I'm teaching about theater, obviously. And one of the things that we talk about is making sure the audience has that first time feeling. So every time an audience comes to see it, and that's the joy of live theater, is that every single time someone comes to see it, they're getting a new show. But it's got
Hmm.
to feel like for us as actors, you've got to feel like it's your first time on stage because the audience won't connect with it if they're not feeling that energy from you as well. So that's such a fun, well, I wouldn't say fun
Yeah.
for me, but a fun challenge for a tailor maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the nice thing about how the book is written in general is it and how Buddy is written is it leaves a lot of room to play with. Because I
Yeah,
mean,
Mhm.
Buddy's he's a silly little guy.
because as you said, like your character of Buddy is looking at life in a big city where he's grown up with elves his entire life,
Hmm.
being a human and not knowing he was a human, but just wondering why he was different than everyone else. And then he comes into New York and all of these scenes as a full grown adult, but with a very childlike attitude and
Mhm.
perspective. I mean, there's
Hmm.
that one line that we talked about when you're in the office and you meet Greenway for the first time, and he says, "I thought your kid was 12 years old. I thought your son was 12 years old," and you go, "I'm this many." Like that's a very childlike response to an adult saying, "How old are you?" or like, "What's your age?" or whatever.
Hmm.
But what makes that even funnier is our interpretation of this show because the elves in our version of the show are actual children. So you've grown up in this make believe world of the North Pole. Well, to everyone else, this make believe world of the North Pole, where
Hmm.
the elves are all children, but you're a grown
Mhm.
adult. And so it makes sense that your character knows how to respond as a child because the elves in your world are all children. And I have this idea
Hmm.
that they are forever children, much like Santa never ages, right? So like
Right.
these
Mhm.
children just stay children forever. And it's such an interesting way to look at the character of Buddy from that lens.
Yeah, yeah, and even with how he interacts with all the adults, because not only is he viewing Walter as like the prominent father figure in his life, like a child would, um, even with the secretary at his office, he interacts with her much like he would a teacher,
Right, right,
like just
right.
like just responding to all that like positive reinforcement
Mhm.
Mhm.
and yeah, just like very student teacher
Mhm.
relationship, like elementary school,
Mhm.
kindergarten. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's fun. It's very fun.
And then Rue, for you, I mean, your character, as you said, you have a lot of time off stage, right? Jovie in the
Yeah.
movie is written in the show a lot. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason in the musical, she's not as integral to the story, it's
Yeah.
more about the relationship with Buddy and his family than it
Yeah.
is the Buddy and Jovie relationship. And
Hmm.
so I wonder, I mean, and maybe you can speak to this, what is that really like? Because not only then are you maintaining this character and trying to be yourself because you're playing a real person, but
Hmm.
now also you have, you know, your scene in act or scene 3 or scene 4, and then you're off stage
Yeah.
again until scene 8. And so
Yeah,
you've got all
it's
these
scene 3, and then
7, 8,
no, scene 6,
10.
scene
Oh,
6,
scene
then
6
scene
is
10.
so it's like you get these moments where you're trying to maintain this character who only really interacts with Taylor and not everyone
Yeah.
else on stage. But then also then you get off stage and you get to be Rubie again,
Yeah.
and then you get downtime as Rubie, and then you have to come back on stage as Jovie again after not like Taylor gets to stay Buddy the whole
Right.
time with very little breaths in between, you know,
Mhm.
but you have this very difficult challenge. So what is that? Can you just take us through that for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, thus far when we've like run the show,
Yeah.
I kind of just stay in my script. Like I talk here and there to like the rest of the cast,
Right.
but I'm very much the person that I just sit in my seat and look at the script, or I watch Taylor do his thing on stage.
It's so fun.
I try to keep, I honestly just try to keep myself busy. I
Yeah,
feel like
I can't express how many times that I watch Taylor do things on stage, and I'm just like, Taylor, I love you dearly, and I hope you know that I love you dearly. But the number of
Absolutely.
times that I have said I hate him while watching
yes,
you on stage is
Yeah.
astounding, simply
Yeah.
because you can do no wrong. And the things that you're capable of doing and just the choices that you make that are so perfect for the character, it's like, I hate that he does. Like, I want an opportunity to be like, Taylor, you didn't do that right, but it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
which is commendable to you. So congratulations on that.
Well,
But
thank you. I appreciate that.
but Rubie, I mean, it's such an interesting challenge that you have, and it's never one that I really thought about for you
Yeah.
maintaining your character. And I will say that you're doing a great job of always letting your character come through when you are on
Thank you.
stage. So if that's something that's difficult for you, we're not seeing that on the other side. It looks like it looks very effortless. So you're doing a great job there.
Thanks.
What are no problem. As we kind of wrap up our final thoughts on Elf the musical, can you guys tell us 2 things? Number 1, what do you think the overall theme of this musical is? And then number 2, what do you hope that audiences leave understanding, seeing? What do you think their favorite moments will be? What should the audience take away from Elf?
I think takeaway, my takeaway would be that just spend time with family, not only during the holidays, but just like in general. I feel like as I feel like we hear this when you get older, but as you get older, you know, the less time you have to do family things. Like I'm constantly, even without Elf, I'm constantly doing something, and my mom's like, "I haven't seen you. Where you been?" I'm like, "I'm busy." So just like taking the time to spend time with family, like bring maybe a cousin or your sister or sibling, whatever, that you haven't talked to, and just bring them to the show if you haven't talked to them in a while, and be like, "Hey, there's, you know, if you want to come see a Christmas show, there's this upcoming show at Community Theater League, and we can do this together." Yeah, especially since it's a longer run than usual, there's a lot more opportunities to come see the show.
Absolutely.
So that would be my takeaway. Just spend time with family while you can.
Yeah, I would agree with Rubie on that. Because I mean, family is a very overarching theme, just between Buddy finding his own family, his own, I guess, blood family, and how he interacts with his given family.
Yeah.
But I think another thing to take away from the show is don't lose your inner child, because I mean, obviously Buddy is very much a child in a 30-year-old's body, and he interacts with the world with such excitement and joy and curiosity, in a society where a lot of people are overworked and kind of jaded, and have since lost touch with their inner child and that sense of curiosity and joy for the world. So sometimes it's, I guess one message is sometimes it's okay to go back to your childish roots where every little thing excites you and you're curious about just everything that comes your way.
Yeah.
And to
Well, and I think
get
that
into the Christmas spirit.
And I think that childlike outlook on life and seeing every day new is really important in this story, because it's not just about Buddy, who has this journey of
Right.
maintaining this childlike outlook on life, but then that rubs off onto so many different characters, and that you end up in this world, like you said, Taylor, where everyone is overworked. And they just know, all they know is work, all they know is drab and sad, and they're losing that holiday spirit, and they're losing what it really means to be with family, and really what it means to, and different characters throughout the show, even like the Nobody Cares About Santa Claus song at the opening of Act 2, that whole song is a bunch of mall Santas who are talking about, kids used to love seeing Santa. They used to love seeing me and loved seeing me do my job. And now all of a sudden, nobody cares. Nobody cares what we do. Nobody cares where we are, because they've lost that mysticism of the idea of Santa. It just became work, and didn't become this kind of childlike fun that they used to have. So yeah, I think that's very important. So very well said for both of you. I'll tell you what, you guys are great. You make my job easy.
Thank you.
The director and host of this episode, you make my job very easy.
Was there another question in that question?
It was the theme of the show, which you both covered, and then why or what should audiences take away from the show, which I think you did cover also. So
I was like, I felt like I missed something.
Yeah. No, you both did fine. Are there any final thoughts that you have for our audience as we close the episode today? Other than get your tickets.
Get your tickets.
Yeah.
Audition for the shows.
Yes. So
yes, please.
Cover all that in just a second. So thank you, Rubie and Taylor, so much for joining me on this episode. I really do, and I say this every time we do an interview, but I think it gives so much of a different perspective to hear from the actors in these musicals, because we get to see them on stage, but then we don't really get opportunities to, Logan, we miss you too. We're excited to see you. But we often just get wrapped up in our own stuff. We're rehearsing, and then we're doing the show, and then by the time we're done with the show, we want to get out of there, so it just gives us an opportunity to connect in a way that our audiences don't typically get to connect with us. So I just appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us tonight, and cover Elf the Musical on part 1 of this Elf the Musical series. You can catch us next Tuesday at 3 p.m., where we will be sitting down with Ryan Lannon, Caroline Cipriani, and Emmeline Martin, the Hobbs family, to talk more about Elf. Coming up this week here at CTL, we have the Corner of Broadway and 3rd concert on November 17th and 18th. So make sure to head to ctlshows.com to get your tickets. You can also get your tickets for Elf the Musical on December 1st through the 3rd, the 7th through the 10th, and the 14th through the 17th at ctlshows.com. A Few Good Men auditions will be December 3rd and 4th. In 2 weeks, you will get to hear us sit down with Phil Veneta, the director of A Few Good Men, as he talks about his ideas about the show, what he likes about it, and what to expect for auditions. And then auditions for Cinderella, our CAC show here this year, are on our December 10th and 11th. So prepare for all of the things. Head to ctlshows.com and/or our Facebook page for all information about auditions and ticket information. This has been another episode of CTL Speaks. Until the curtain rises again, this has been your host, Aubyn, signing off. Night, everybody.